So we were talking at dinner, and Mary Warren said there's a great story about your experience in World War II.
Well, that's very kind of her to make mention of that, but there isn't anything important or big or great about any story with me in World War II. I was very fortunate at the age of 18 when I got out of high school. I went down with my best friend from Roosevelt High School in Yonkers to volunteer for OCS, Officers Training School, in field artillery, or in artillery. And we were separated in the line of people lining up to get physicals and stuff. And in the middle of my physical, they pulled me out of the line, and I kept on going, but they pulled me out and did a lot of writing and poking around my ears. And make a long story short, Larry got through the line and was waiting for me, and I was rejected. He was 1A and I was 4F because of my left ear, which had been perforated deliberately by doctors when I was a kid about 10 times to drain. When I had an ear infection, they were afraid of mastoid, so they drain your ears right away. At least that was one technique. And so I ended up with a patched up eardrum. They used onion skin on it or some such. But I couldn't hear too well, and it was a liability, a medical liability in the war that the military didn't want. So they thanked me very much for coming down and gave me my walking papers. So I went home. I saw Larry, of course, and he was shocked and disappointed that I couldn't go with him. We'd have made a great team. I went home and got sick, like depressed, disgusted, upset, and my father, God bless him, he knew how, when I even got a fever, he went down, when he got back to New York the next day, he did some digging around and found out there was an American Field Service office open in downtown in Beaver Street someplace, where they'd had an office in World War I. And that's a volunteer medical corps that served then, and they started up again in World War II to serve the British and Free French and other Allied forces in Europe with volunteer American people to drive four-wheel drive Dodge ambulances, which were a real asset wherever they were, in bad weather and so forth. So I went down to the office and talked to Mr. Galati. It was, you don't hear of him?
No, I just...
He was a very well-known guy in World War I because he got the American Field Service started then, and so he had a good reputation. He told me to go down and get a uniform at Brooks Brothers and gave me a order for shots. I forget how many shots. And he said, go get your shots, get your uniform, and call me when you've done that, and we'll tell you when we have transportation. So I went and got my uniform, got my shots, called Steve, told him I'd done all that. And about 4 or 5 days later, he called my home, my mother and father's home, which is where I was staying at that time, right outside New York City. And he said, get down here October 10th or whatever, 10 days from then. And we've got, you go to Pier 83 or whatever, and your ship is the Silverlight. And they'll get you on board it. You get down there, and you'll be gone. So that ship is taken off right away. And it was a Liberty ship with 2 locomotives bolted to the deck, and it flew an ominous red flag, which I found out designated it, defined it, identified it as an ammunition ship. So we had lots of ammo on board and 2 locomotives bolted to the deck, and there were going to be 11 of us on the passenger side of the thing. There were 5 guys from Standard Oil and 6 guys from the American Field Service, none of whom did I know. And I was the only, I didn't know any other AFS guys till I got there. So they had us crammed into some little tiny cabins, two men to a cabin and so forth.
And what kind of ship was it?
Liberty ship,
Yeah, I know, but
5,000 tons.
yeah, but who was the crew?
I know it's a Norwegian ship, the Silverlight. Captain Anderson. So now I'm through. I mean, I'm on a boat and we're meeting the guys and all that jazz, and they're weighing anchor, and we're off for Guantanamo, Cuba, Guantanamo Bay, and we went there and did some, whatever we did, just a short stop, then we went through the Panama Canal to go. We still weren't told where we were going, but now they decided they could tell us. So we're going through the canal around the west coast of South America, and then we'll eventually get you on land up the Persian Gulf, up around Basra, Abadan, whatever. And that's for two months later, where we were on that Liberty ship. A good month to get from America to Abadan or Basra, wherever we landed. And from there we went by cattle car to
Baghdad?
Baghdad, and then we went by bus across the desert to Damascus, and then by train across more desert to the Gulf, to the Mediterranean coast. And we ended up being transported from there to back to the east again toward we went to Baalbek, Syria, which is a famous, I found out later, old site of Roman ruins and that kind of stuff. And that's where our little group got together with some other little groups of field service guys, and we were trained there, which mainly consisted of making sure we could drive a car or truck, and getting used to four-wheel drive, and getting used to downshifting, because nothing was synchronized. But if you went from fourth gear to third gear, you had to put the clutch in, rev the gas, and just enough so you could slip to the next gear if you're going down. Anyway, that was it. That's how I got over there, and that's how I got trained, and then we got a boat to North Africa, hospital ship, and we landed in Alexandria, and we went from there to Tripoli, where we were stationed for quite a while before we put on LSTs and shipped to Italy.
And with whom did you serve?
Well, the British Eighth Army, all the time in North Africa, which was a very short shot, and then in Italy with the British group they had there was the 4th Indian Division, 2nd New Zealand, something or other, and my regiment. I was the only field service guy now that was in this pocket in Italy, and I was assigned to the 50th Royal Tanks, which is a very famous old, well, not old, but it was a well-known tank division dating back to World War I. And it was a wonderful group to be with for the next couple of years.
What fascinated me about the field service is then after World War II, they wondered, well, how do we carry on? What do we do now? And that's when AFS scholarships started, which a lot of the next generation knew about, and young people today. And we had colleagues who were AFS scholarship people. So it was remarkable. Started by the Quakers in World War I. They were the ones that started it for people who non-combatant, either COs, gay people, 4Fs, people who are too old. So it was a place.
I got 3 of my high school buddies that were also 4F and hadn't heard about the field service. And when I got my uniform and saw them in our local tavern before I left, and they wanted to know what was I doing with a uniform on, and I explained to them, and so those 3 guys joined the field service. They came later, didn't come at the same time I did.
Now these 1,200 or so, very few people in the American field service in World War II, they were not veterans of the British Army, they were not veterans of the U.S. Army. But one of the guys from Bronxville, New York, that Don helped get into the field service, became a friend of Father George Bush. And all through the years, this guy had tried to get these guys some kind of veteran status. What they really wanted was just the acknowledgement that they had served.
We didn't have any club, 1,200-1,500 people. That's not a pressure group.
So finally, when Mr. Bush was president, he really helped get a little bill through the Congress that would acknowledge these few people who were still alive and give them honorable discharge if they had served somewhere even close to the American forces. So about the same time, just before George Bush, when we had the rededication of the Statue of Liberty, Ronald Reagan was there, and it was big pomp and circumstance, and the singer, Patty, what's her name?
Sandy Patty.
Sandy Patty was a gospel singer. She sang the Star Spangled Banner. Kay had this on a tape, my sister Kay. So one day in our apartment in Chicago, we had the tape. Don put on his uniform, and we presented him with his discharge papers. And he had medals from the Mediterranean and European, whatever. So we got him honorably discharged from the U.S. Army. Then nothing goes with it. No benefits go with it.
Death benefit.
He helps them get buried.
I got a casket and $200 to turn the dirt. Something like that. But no educational benefits or anything. But it was fine. I mean, we
They
didn't,
just wanted
didn't
the
expect that going in, and we certainly weren't griping about it. We were so happy that the war was over and we were home, and I was working anyway. I didn't want to go to courthouse, as I told you before.